mental health is something that we don't talk about enough. In the black community, well, we're massively overrepresented in the mental health institutions, even more so than in the prisons. And again, these are questions we have to ask. Well, why?
But once you get a control and an understanding of who you are, no one can use you against you. No one can ever use your mental illness against you. You've already spoke about it, so what you got?
The biggest point in life to resolve mental health is like giving a fuck about a person.
Where did you get the courage? I got the courage. The 2 words. I care.
It's Chill Will Radio, where connections will be made, advice will be given, jokes will be told, and things will get real. My name is Willis Cooks, and I'm your host. But understand this show is not meant to be used as a substitute for a relationship with a licensed mental health professional. Enjoy the show, y'all. Yo. I'm here. Welcome back, man, to another episode of Chill Will Radio. For all those tuning in, thank you for tuning in. For all those who will tune in a little bit later because you're busy right now, driving, getting settled in, or whatever the case may be, good looking. And for those individuals who haven't tuned in yet, but you will tune in eventually because you will catch on eventually. Thank you, man. Thank you. I am not strangely, but I'm excited for today's episode. Man. It's today we're going to be speaking about mental health, mental illness, and these mass shootings. Mental health, mental illness, and these mass shootings. This is a subject that I didn't want to speak about. This is a subject that I did not want to speak about because my views and opinions towards certain things will definitely offend certain people, because I pride myself on telling the truth, the uncomfortable truth. And a lot of the things that I'm going to say when we get on the main subject of today's show, they may ruffle some feathers, they may not, but a lot of people are going to agree with it if you actually take the time out to actually sit back and listen, or do your research, or educate yourself on some of these things that I'm going to speak about in the show. You will agree with it. So, and I had a whole nother thing planned for today. Like, I literally throughout this whole week, and I guess this is my check-in part of it. Throughout this whole week, I had a full plan on like what am I going to do on this show for today, and it was derailed by what happened. That terrible shooting out in Thousand Oaks. Terrible shooting out in Thousand Oaks. It was derailed by that. And like I said, I wasn't even going to talk about it, but a friend of mine told me my voice is important. Sometimes it's hard for me to understand how or why my voice is important. And mind you, if you're listening in, please, join the chat. Check in, let me know you there, even if it's just a simple hi, man. I just want to acknowledge everybody that's listening, just tuning in, just to say, yo, what up? But for a while, this individual told me, hey, you need to listen to this because your voice is important. And like I was saying, it's me doing this, getting into this whole radio thing, and putting myself out there a whole lot more. It's helping me understand why my voice is important, but I still sometimes don't really acknowledge. Well, sometimes I still don't believe it. Sometimes I still think like, yo, I'm just a regular dude from the hood that, got a backstory, that did all this extra stuff, that, is doing this therapy thing and working. I just think I'm a regular old guy. And so I was like, why not? But I'm going to speak about that. And hopefully hopefully the point gets across to some people. But how was my week? My week was good. Everything was straight. Everything was fine. Man, first things first, I want to give a major shout out to my guy. And he was an individual that has been listening to the show. He's been listening to the show consistently. And I've been getting his name wrong consistently every show. Didier. Yes, Didier Gomez, man, he hit me. He's a photographer. And he hit me up. He was like, yo, I need to get my portfolio and stuff updated and things like that. What you think about doing a photo shoot? Bet. I got you. In the back of my head, I'm like, hell nah. Hell nah. Because if you know me, you know how much I hate pictures. I don't take pictures. Like, even as a kid, I don't really know if I have any. Like, I know I have baby pictures, but I don't have any on hand. I didn't like taking pictures in elementary school. I stayed away from all of that stuff. Why? Because it was just like, nah, not me. So me doing that photo shoot that I had, I believe it was Tuesday. Me doing that photo shoot, it was awkward as hell. It was different, but it was rewarding because for the past few months, I could say ever since probably about May, I've been pushing myself on every single level. Anything that I'm uncomfortable with, I'm doing it. And that's something that I was like, I ain't really sure, but I still went ahead and do it. Man, Didier, thank you just for giving me the opportunity to actually go do that. That may be very, very small to some. It's some people who just out here do photo shoots and blah, 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 take pictures on a regular, but me? Like, nah. Not Willis, man. So, Didier Gomez, man, if you're listening, thank you. I appreciate it. Hit him up. He's a good man. The vibe there, the conversation we had there, he really made me feel comfortable, and I thoroughly appreciate that. Outside of that, I did a lot of self-reflecting this week. I know last week during the self-care piece, I mentioned the importance of journaling, and I've been journaling not on a piece of paper though, but on my phone. I'm moving around a lot, and sometimes I don't have access to like a notepad or something real quick to pull out and write. So sometimes it's easy to just write things down on my phone. So I've been doing a lot of self-reflecting. I've been writing down a lot of my thoughts that come to play. And I've noticed sometimes like I do have some very like dark thoughts. Some very dark and negative thoughts sometimes. Sometimes I just have to catch myself because there's a social work Willis, there's a therapist Willis, but then there's also that asshole Willis. There's that Willis that grew up in the hood. There's that Willis that done sold drugs and did all like this. That Willis, I've really grown, and that Willis, we really just sometimes be thinking about some wild shit sometimes, and that's another part of the reason why I don't really like getting into or speaking about current events and things like that unless I'm within a trusted circle, because my certain views on certain things will be like, whoa, you bugging. But this week I was doing a lot of self-reflecting, and the journaling side, that really worked. It was hard as hell to actually do because I would forget, and then I was like, okay, I need to start holding myself accountable for a lot of the things that I do, a lot of the things that I say, especially here on this mic. And there's something that I'm planning on doing here in the future that's, I believe, is going to be really, really dope. But just reflecting on where I'm at, why I'm doing certain things that I'm doing, and just how I've gotten to this point has been crazy. I believe it was the other night, Friday night. Yeah, Friday night. I think it was Friday night. Friday night or Thursday night. One of those nights, I had gotten into this long convo with a friend, and I was just telling this individual everything. I don't know why. It was just everything about, with me being adopted and the problems and the identity things that my bad, I'm a little nervous. But anyway, the things I suffer with when it comes to identity as an individual who was adopted. The fact that I don't know like my biological parents and things like that, and just how I felt when it comes to that, and a lot of the negative things that I done to people that I cared about. It's that allowed me to look at things at a different light. I'm a 26-year-old guy right now, and it's crazy that the thoughts that I had of myself when I was 18, I still looked at myself as that young little boy. I still looked at myself as that young little guy, and it was pointed out to me Friday during that conversation, and I was having, it was like I still looked at myself as that person. I never gave myself the ability or the credit for the simple fact that I've grown a lot. Like, I have, homelessness, adoption, foster care, seeing people die, and selling drugs, and all this stuff. And I just sometimes in the midst of a lot of things that we go through, we just like, it's a part of the journey. And a lot of times I didn't even look at my situation as a bad situation. And it forced me to just be thankful for who I am, and thankful for the fact that I'm black. It was a post that I seen. Simone is a host on It's there Never Not Extra on Tuesdays 8:30. Yeah, she posted something on her story, and it was like, yo, sometimes don't you just wake up and aren't you just proud that you're black? And within that moment of me reflecting on a lot of things, the biggest thing and the best thing that I could say for myself is like, damn, I am so glad that I am a part of a group of people who are so resilient. Because me myself, I am resilient, and I owe a lot of my resilience, to my blackness. Because when you look at the history of black folks, all you see is resiliency. All you see is persistence. All you see is hard work. And in the midst of me feeling like shit during certain times, it was just like, I'll get through it. It is what it is. So just this week has been a lot of self-reflecting. Who I am right now as a 26-year-old. Who are you right now at the age that you are at? Because I'm not the same person who I was in the beginning of the year. Definitely not that person. Beginning of the year was crazy. I'm not the same person who I was when I was 20. I'm not the same person who I was when I was 18. And I think that sometimes goes into the fact that I stayed away from pictures so much. Because Didier, he sent me a picture that Friday night, and I just had to sit and look at it. And I stared at that picture it's actually the picture on the flyers that you guys see that I posted on Instagram and, see on your phone or however you're listening to the show. That picture, I sat and looked at that picture for a good 20, 30 minutes. Like, yo, that's me. I look grown. I look grown. And then I had to pull up another picture of when I was 18, and it was like, yo, I still look at myself when I was as that 18-year-old guy or that 18-year-old person who's trying to figure things out. And I had to just step back and just tell myself, Willis, you doing all right. So for you, whoever that's listening, however you look at yourself, man, you need to sit back wherever you're at and just tell yourself like, yo, you doing all right. You doing the shit. Even if you might be in a bad situation, or even if your situation is not as good, it's not where you want it to be, because it could get way worse. You doing all right. I'm doing all right. You're doing all right. We all doing all right, man. It's going to be all right. Ain't that Kendrick Lamar song? It's going to, yeah, that. Going into the chat, as soon as the thing click over, Didier, yeah, my man. You have moves, though. I'm like, he been practicing in the mirror. Hell no, I ain't been practicing in the mirror, man. I haven't at all, man. Black and proud. Terrence, you right. Black and proud. Terrence, you are right, man. So, going into the self-care piece, man. Like I said, last week I spoke about journaling and the importance of that. And I'm notorious for this. Me, myself, and sometimes we all definitely need this. It's kind of like two parts to the whole self-care piece. The first part is just to unplug for a minute, whether it's a day, an hour, a few days, a week. Just unplug from life, whether it's your friends, social media, definitely social media. Friends, life, social media, drama, whatever. Just take a step back. I do that all the time. Like, I don't listen to news. I don't watch the news. I'm mindful of who I follow on I'm mindful of who I follow on Instagram. I'm mindful of who I befriend. We got to be mindful of all of that, because what's on your phone, what you see, what you don't understand, you're bringing in that energy, right? And I guess that's a segue into the second part of the self-care piece, which is clean out your social media stuff. Like, clean it out. Unfollow certain people. Stop following this group of people, because if we just take a step back, everybody who's listening, if you can, take a step back, whether it's right now, later on, tonight, whatever. Take a step back and just listen. I mean, not listen. Just look at who you're following. The bulk of who you're following, right? And ask yourself, does your energy align with who you're following? Because sometimes, 9 times out of 10, these phones is fucking weird. They be following us. They be following us. Sometimes I feel down, and next thing I know, on that Explore page, it's a bunch of like things that can either uplift me or things that I can relate to. Earlier in the year, I was in a very depressive state. All I followed was like sad shit. Sad stuff and that's where my mindset was at. But when you get out of that mindset, you got to delete all that stuff out of your social media. You got to unfollow these folks. Period. If you're in a good mood, if you're in a great mood, if you're in an entrepreneurial state, you're about to follow a lot of business type of pages, a lot of pages that are influencers when it comes to whatever field that you're in. Like, clean it out. Look at who you're following. Look at the type of people that you're following and ask yourself, does my energy align with who I'm following on my phone? If it doesn't, clean it out. And once you clean it out, just back off. That's the biggest thing. Clean it out, delete it, unfollow certain folks, whether it's on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Tumblr, whatever your main source of social media is, clean that out. And then once you clean that out, take a step back, detox from it, uninstall it, sign out, just step away from it, and come back when you're ready. Come back when you feel like you're comfortable and see how you feel. See what it is. Because the way Instagram works, if you like a certain amount of pages on that Explore page, it's going to be everything. Like, and I ain't even going to front. I caught myself liking certain women's pages. Oh, you look good, tap tap. Oh, you look good, double tap. Oh, you look good, double tap. The next thing I know, it's a miniature porno on my Explore page. Like, oh shit. There's a little button you can say, don't show me these posts. Let me do that. And then recycle and back up. Look at where you're at. Because you don't want to be in that state. That social media, this phone, everything is it's a big influence on our energy. It's a big influence on how we feel. It's a big influence on where we're consciously at. Because everything we look at on that phone subconsciously, it's leaking into our subconscious. And it's going to come out in some type of way through our conscience, through our thoughts, through our voices, how we act, how we behave. Everything is connected. The second we put it on our phone and we lock eyes in it, it's going into our soul. Period. So, back up. Unplug. Clean everything out from that social media. Unplug. Do what you got to do to get away from that, man, because it's very important. And it's going to be hard. It is going to be hard, especially because we don't understand how much our whole life is in this damn phone. How much our whole life is in this damn, social media stuff. I remember, man, back in middle school, you didn't care for this stuff. Like, you could put your phone away and not think about it. It's like, it's whatever. But, if you walking around without your phone and you don't get on social media a certain time, your life is going whoa, I need this. And that's bad. Anything that if your energy is gravitating towards something and you don't like what your energy is gravitating towards, you need to pull back again so that won't control you. We don't want to let anything control us. So it's going to be hard to unplug. It's going to be hard to clean out your social media at certain times, but it's needed. It's thoroughly needed. thoroughly need it. And give yourself that time. Like I said, if it's for an hour, if it's for the day, if it's I'm not going to touch my phone an hour before I go to bed, or I'm not going to touch my phone the first hour when I wake up. It's going to be hard, but yo, it is going to feel good. But if you don't clean that out, if you don't clean out the people that that's on your social media, if you don't unfriend them and unfollow them, you're going to back away. You're going to unplug. You're going to detox. You're going to restart and reset your whole body. And then as soon as you jump back in, you're going to, see some negative shit. Because it's there. And you don't want that fresh, new, clean body, clean eyes to immediately, first thing you see is some negative stuff. You're setting yourself right back up, homie. So clean your stuff out first. Clean it out first. Step back, unplug, then come back. And look at how you're feeling. Look at how you at. Look at how you at. Look at where you're at. Look at how you're feeling. And ask yourself, does my energy align with the things that I'm following on my phone? Does it? If your energy is negative, follow some positive stuff. If a lot of the stuff on your phone is negative, clean that out, put some positive stuff on it. You know, if you got a miniature porno on your Instagram, because a lot of these dudes be doing that. If you got a mini porno on your Explore page on Instagram, get rid of that. Like that's just not cool. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. Period. Get rid of that. Back into the comments, man. Keith, what is the deal, man? We all mixed though, man. Real, yeah. We all mixed. I can't remember what. I don't know where. But I've been deleting and I'm following lately. Yeah. Being without your phone for a day feels good as fuck, low key. It do. Because the only hard part is those first few minutes without it. Those first few minutes without it. And I'm telling you, and I'm sure Keith, can attest to this. When you're away from your phone for a certain amount of time, your mind just clears up. It just seems like, yo, I can think about this. I can think about that. I can get this done. I can get that done because my mind isn't sucked into whatever is on this screen. So yeah, it feels good as hell when you back off. But those first few minutes, just like anything, because this thing is a habit. This is a part of our lives. So anytime we step away from something that we have habitually used for a certain amount of time, it's going to be hard. But it is what it is. There you go. So, now. All right. So, going into the main topic of today's show. Mental illness and these mass shootings. They're let me just give a quick disclaimer. There's going to be a lot of ranting. There's going to be a lot of facts. There's going to be, I ain't even going to front. I might even feel myself speaking from an emotional place a little bit because I get invested into this because of how much I like the field. And these are certain things that, this topic is something that I've just kind of just always kept to myself. It was like, and so it on one side, we're going to speak about mental health, and that's going to be the main focus on it. But you might hear me start to speak about racism. You might hear me start to speak about gun control, because all of it ties into each other. And we can't speak about, when it comes to mass shootings, we can't speak about one thing without bringing up the other. Because if we just speak about one thing and leave the other like there, that's not, in my opinion, that's giving that other thing the ability to hide, when that other thing that's hiding might really be the truth. Okay? So, if you are, so the title of this actual show, The Stigma Will Never End. Remember that statement, because I'm going to come back to it towards the end. The stigma will never end. And remember this next thing I'm about to say. I really thank all of those individuals who are working towards destigmatizing mental health. I really appreciate all of those individuals who are opening up about their story, who are turning themselves into advocates. And you don't even have to be really out here like, Nah, but I really do appreciate if you just like, you know, check up on a person and, you know, just assist somebody. I really do appreciate that. But if you agree with anything that the media is saying when it comes to mental health and mental illness and these mass shootings, if you agree with any of that, you a hypocrite, dog. I'm sorry, but you a hypocrite. You need to look at, and I'm gonna revisit this towards the end, but you might be a little bit of a hypocrite, and you probably don't even know it, and that's okay because we're gonna get to that. But you probably don't even know it. But to work towards destigmatizing mental illness, and then fully agreeing with a lot of the things that the media is putting out there when it comes to these mass shootings and mental illness, it's very hypocritical. Very hypocritical because, well, I'll just dive into it now, but very hypocritical because what you're doing is, on one end, you're working towards taking away the stigma of mental health. You're working towards giving other people that safe space and that safe place to actually speak about what they're going through. And that's a really, really great thing. But if you could agree with what the media is saying when it comes to painting the picture that these mass shooters are individuals who are mentally ill, that mental illness is the cause of these mass shootings, what you're doing is you're adding oil to that fire. You're adding fuel to that fire of stigma. You're doing nothing but fanning it. Because what we don't understand is that when we lump people up in a group, and the group would be just mass shooters, and we say, oh, it's a mass shooter, he's mentally ill. Oh, he shot 5, 6, 20, 30 people, he's mentally ill. Because what you're doing is all of those people who are diagnosed with a mental illness, what they're doing, when the media says this, when they see other people say this, when their family and your friends start to look at people as such, they're finna go back in their closet. Because the stigma will never end, and we live in a country to where frankly, these mass shootings have become our culture. It's sad to say, this is the culture that we live in. It becomes a tradition. Fucking this shit has been on a rise, literally, for the past few years. It has literally tripled. These mass shootings have literally tripled since 2011. It's like every 2-3 months, it's there they go. Oh, there go another one. Oh, there go another one. Oh, there go another one. When before, you said, this happens every now and then, but what we're doing right now is, for those individuals, and what the media is doing, what the media especially is doing, you're causing those people to go back into the closet. And we're going to speak about why that's very dangerous, why that's very wrong, and things like that. I have a clip, because I was doing, like I said, I just thought about doing this show literally Saturday. Yep, I just thought about doing it Saturday or Friday, one of those days, and I've been like kind of engulfing myself in a lot of information when it comes to this. And I came across this one little video, and this video, I'm going to break down this video. We're going to listen to it together, and just to help keep me organized, because I don't want to go off on this tangent, because it will go places to where it may be not supposed to go. So let me pull it up for a quick second. Let me pause this background music. Pause. You go there. Okay, so this video is from 2017, and this video came after what was that shooting in Texas? The church. Yeah, that church shooting in Texas. So this video came out sometime around then, and it's from some news page on YouTube or whatever. And it's a guy. So as we're listening to it, I'm going to be pausing just to break some things down, just to add more information to it. This video is very, very beneficial, so listen.
Does mental illness and gun violence actually have a scientific connection? After every major mass shooting in the U.S., there's always a discussion about whether or not the perpetrator's mental health was to blame. A recent study mental illness with violence at a higher rate than it actually occurs. Oh, and then there's this.
I think that mental health is your problem here. This was a very, based on preliminary reports, very deranged individual.
Now, yeah, the shooter.
We're pairing mental health with violence at a higher rate than it actually occurs. So I work in a hospital, and I work with psychotic individuals, very psychotic individuals, and I've been doing this for years. And the one thing I can definitely say when it comes to that group of people, they're not really that violent. They're not really that violent. See, when the media, and this is the bulk of it, when the media when the media puts the picture out there that these mass shooters, this recent person who shot up that bar in Thousand Oaks, he may be suffering from PTSD, when other folks, this person may be psychotic, and he in the past he's had, some in the past he's been receiving some form of mental health services and things like that. What we're doing is, like I said earlier, we're painting the picture that all of these individuals are this. And that's not the case, because what's going on is the media is using mental illness as a scapegoat. The media is using mental illness as a scapegoat to hide or to back away, or to not speak about the real cause, or to not speak about what we really need to speak about, or to hide away from it. Because it's easy to say, oh, he probably was mentally ill, because we don't understand that. Why would somebody want to go shoot up a bar? Why would somebody want to go shoot up a school, a church? We don't know. We don't know. We really don't know. But to quickly assume that person, and to quickly say that person, is mentally ill, he's psychotic, he's this and that, you're just like I said earlier, you're just adding fuel to the fire. You're adding fuel to the fire, and you're allowing mental illness to be used as a scapegoat. That's one thing that we definitely don't want to do. Period. We don't want to use mental illness as a scapegoat. I don't care. Your mental illness is not an excuse for your behavior. Especially if I can clearly see that you're just using it as such. Like, man, it's a patient of mine who has been to the hospital every month for the past 7 months. She comes in there, she flats out tell the other patients like, yo. She comes in there and flat out tell the other patients like, yo, yeah, I just come here because of XYZ. Ain't nothing really wrong. I just want to get away or whatever. That is bad. Very, very bad. We do not need to get into the habit of using mental illness and mental health as a scapegoat to run away from our shit. Period. Don't do that. Because there's really people out here that's dying. It's really people out here that can hardly live, right? This is a debilitating thing for a lot of folks. And if you're one of those individuals that, and maybe look at it, ask yourself this, but if you're agreeing with the news, you're also saying that it's okay to use mental illness as a scapegoat for a lot of situations. Yo, that's not cool at all. So let's move on.
He's talking about did have a history of mental illness, but there is still a lack of scientific evidence to support the idea that America's gun problem is rooted in mental health. In fact, there's actually data that shows the opposite is true. Several epidemiological studies have shown that there is little to no correlation between mental illness and violence towards others. This includes people who suffer from schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, and severe depression.
So let me break those three things down, right? Schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, and depression, severe depression, major depression. When it comes to schizophrenia, I'm pretty sure we all kind of know what schizophrenia is, right? It's a psychotic disorder. It's a psychotic disorder, and the individuals who may have schizophrenia, schizophreniform, and schizoaffective, they're primarily dealing with some form of delusion, and hallucination. I'll just put the words together, but hallucination and delusion, right? Hallucination and delusion. Hallucinations are sensory type of things. So like I hear voices, I see things, I smell stuff that's not there, I hear stuff that's not there, and those types of stuff. Delusions are an alien kidnapped me, or I think I'm Michael Jackson, or those bizarre things that we come across, those bizarre things that people, see, go through, have, or whatever. And when it a lot of times when it comes to these people, they themselves, they're trying to figure it out, just like we're trying to figure it out. 9 times out of 10, 9.5 times out of 10, they know the voices that they hear and the things that they see. They know this shit is wild. All they're trying to do is to protect themselves. So when somebody comes around, and does something or says something the wrong way, they themselves are going to be taken aback, because it's like, I'm just trying to cope with this. I'm trying to figure this out just like you are. I'm trying to figure this out just like you are. And a lot of these patients, a lot of these severely psychotic patients who have schizophrenia, they can't function. They can't function at all. Like, they can't. They need a payee. They need somebody to be in charge of their finances. They need a conservatorship. Conservatorship is when somebody else is your guardian. You're an adult. You're 25, 30, 40 years old, but somebody else has to be your guardian and sign off and speak on your behalf because you're not there all the way. These mass shootings, all of this stuff is planned. Ain't nobody waking up and just, I'm going to go shoot at the bar today. Let me go grab this and blah, blah, blah. No. All of this stuff is planned because it takes time to get these guns that they having. It takes time to go ahead and do this. Anybody who's severely mentally ill, they're not going to be able to sit there and plan these things out for X amount of time, for days or weeks or months or whatever. They're not going to be able to do that because they're not stable, right? It's said that this guy might have PTSD, and today it's ironic as fuck that today is Veterans Day, today or tomorrow, one of them, but it's ironic as hell that today is Veterans Day, and a lot of veterans suffering from PTSD, and they were saying, he might suffer from PTSD. They never say he did, they just say he might, but the fact that they threw it out there, it's important that we understand individuals who suffer from PTSD are not doing that. Individuals who suffer from PTSD, they are not doing that. Post-traumatic stress disorder, what happens when people who have PTSD get violent is because something has triggered them. It's because they're having a flashback. It's because they're having some form of anxiety or panic attack. It's because they're just scared. They're trying to figure this shit out, just like we're trying to figure this shit out. And they're just trying to protect themselves. But that trigger isn't going to last for days or weeks that it takes to plan this stuff out. That flashback isn't going to last for days or weeks that it takes to plan this stuff out. So to say that someone who has PTSD may have the ability to do this is bullshit. It's bullshit. When it comes to the other one was bipolar. Bipolar is nothing more but depression and mania all lumped in together, right? You got bipolar 1, you got bipolar 2. Bipolar 1 is just mania. We know what mania is, right? Your erratic behavior up, you're inflated, high moods, you're very anxious, you can't sleep, you're doing a certain task so much to where it's causing some form of dysfunction. But right after that manic episode, you're going to go into a depressed state, right? The mania can last. It's not how we think of bipolar as I'm happy and I'm sad. I'm happy and I'm sad. I'm happy and I'm sad. No, the mania will last for certain days or weeks. Sometimes it can last for a month or two. But after that manic episode, you drop right into that depressive mood. You're just like, shit, I just spent all of my money on all of this stuff. Now I ain't got no money. That's what that is. Bipolar 2 is the hypomania. Hypomania is just kind of like you're manic, but you're not that manic, right? You're up there, but you're not that up there. And right after that, you hit that depressive state. Those individuals aren't violent at all. Depression, we already know what that is. And we already know those people aren't violent. They're more violent towards themselves, period. They're a little bit more violent towards themselves. So let's kind of get back into this. I'll catch myself. I'm going to catch myself as much as possible because I can feel myself. It's hot in here. It's hot.
Bipolar disorder and severe depression. The National Institute of Mental Health carried out one of the first studies on the subject in 1990. They collected data from over 10,000 people across 3 major U.S. cities. The study accounted for things like socioeconomic status and substance abuse problems. The ultimate conclusion was that if we were to
Like, it's more than one reason why somebody's going to go kill a group of people, right? Or it's more than one reason why somebody's going to be violent. It's more than one reason why somebody's going to be violent. It's hard for me to believe that somebody's violent just because. I'm not saying that that's not out there. I'm not saying that I'm not saying that there hasn't been anybody out there like that, because there have, right? But there's a lot of factors that go into somebody being extremely violent, and to be able to say like, yo, it's just a mental illness thing. We need to look at that and try to work at that. Man, shut the fuck up.
somehow eliminate the risk of people with mental illness carrying out violent crimes, the amount of violent crimes in the U.S. would only drop by about 4%.
It's not that big.
A few years later, the MacArthur Violence Risk Assessment Study followed more than 1,000 psychiatric patients who had been discharged from medical care. The study discovered that patients who suffered only from a serious mental illness and had no substance abuse problems had the same risk in committing violent behavior as anyone else in their community.
People who are suffering only from a mental illness issue and not a substance abuse issue, people who are suffering from only a mental illness issue and not along with a substance abuse issue or not along with something else, they're at the same rate of committing some form of crime, just like me, you, just like anybody else who's not suffering from some form of mental illness. Like, we own the same playing field, people, for real.
And according to more recent national data from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, only 3 to 5% of violent acts can be attributed to people who have serious mental illnesses. Now, the rate of violent crimes for this population does go up when you mix in substance abuse, but that's true for the general population as well.
Man, that like, how many of y'all have been out here and got a little angry off of something that you drank, right? That's the reason why I do not drink clear liquor. I only drink dark. That clear liquor, that's the devil's juice. I don't care what anybody say. Clear liquor, that vodka, tequila, Ciroc, any type of liquor that I can see through, I stay away. First time I got drunk, man, because I get violent. I get violent when I drink clear liquor. I don't know why. I just get very angry and very violent when I drink clear liquor. And I can remember back, I think I was like 16, 17, when I first started drinking. Well, when I first really got drunk, I had a bunch of clear liquor. Man, and I'm literally about to beat my homeboy up because I thought he broke my glasses. I'm in the street finna fight him. And it's crazy because me and my boys, we was just talking about this about last week when we was out bowling for my boy's birthday. I was really finna beat up my homeboy, like, nah, he broke my glasses, fuck him, and blah, blah, blah. But yo, cold part about it is, my glasses weren't even broke. I actually think my glasses was on my face. I think my glasses was on my face, but I'm trying to beat up my homeboy for accusing him of breaking my glasses when they were probably on my face. Like, it's things that we put into our system that sometimes could cause us to be violent. But to say I'm violent alone, right, if I just only have a mental illness disorder and I'm extremely violent, hell nah. Like, we got to look at everything that causes something, because it's not just a lot of these things, they're just not singular incidences, right? It's a lot of stuff that goes into it.
Now, the rate of violent crimes for this population does go up when you mix in substance abuse, but that's true for the general population as well. On the flip side of all this, people who suffer from serious mental illnesses are 10 times more likely to be the victims of violent crimes than members of the general population. They're also...
I'm going to play that again because it's very, 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 very fucking important. Very important.
Go up when you mix in substance abuse, but that's true for the general population as well. On the flip side of all this, people who suffer from serious mental illnesses are 10 times more likely to be the victims of violent crimes than members of the general population. They're also often the victims of
People who suffer from mental illness are 10 times more likely to be the victims of a violent crime. People who are mentally ill are more than likely to be the victims, not the perpetrators. Well, why are they more likely to be the victims of violent crimes? Because of shit like the media does when we lump everybody who is mentally ill into this violent bubble like they're mass shooters, like they're crazy and deranged individuals. Like, no, they just people trying to figure out what's up with them. And then when we see somebody that has schizophrenia, when we see somebody that has PTSD or something like that, we look at them like they crazy. We'll put them in this box that they're violent. So it's like, oh, since you're crazy and you're violent, let me stay away, or let me fuck you up, or let me do this or do that, because that's what we see them as. Well, that's not the case. Not the case at all. Like, period. And then 9 times out of 10, if somebody with a mental illness has a gun, that person needs to be more afraid. No, we need to be more afraid that person with that gun, that mentally ill person with that gun, is going to use that gun on themselves and not on us. They're the ones who aren't safe, because we know how suicide is when it comes to this population. We know suicide is the leading cause of death for people when it comes to people who are mentally ill, because we put people in this box. We put people in this box just like everything else. So they sit there and suffer in silence for years. So eventually they just be like, fuck it. It's finna be a wrap. It's finna be a wrap.
Inflicted violence. Over half of the gun fatalities in the U.S. are from suicide. Experts believe that an emphasis on suicide would be a better policy approach in preventing gun violence, for which there is plenty of evidence and data, as opposed to focusing on mental illness's connection to mass murders, for which there is very little data.
Makes sense.
Lastly, finding a scientific connection between gun violence and, well, anything can be a difficult thing nowadays. That's because there was legislation passed in the late 1990s that essentially pulled funding away from any federal agency looking to study gun violence as a public health issue. I mean, CDC gets funding to study rare diseases like cholera, diphtheria, polio, and rabies. Over the last 40 years, those diseases have only killed around 2,000 people in the U.S. In that same time frame, 1.4 million Americans have died because of firearms. So let's remember that, even when we see headlines that look like this.
You can't see it, but the headline that he's talking about popped up on the screen is mental health versus gun control. Are the two related? No, they're not. They're not. Because when we say, are the two related, then we're lumping them up in the same category. See, when it comes to individuals who are mentally ill, when it comes to mental health things, one of the... Okay, I'm going to speak about this. There's these things called involuntary holds, right? I'm not sure how this goes down in other states, but in California specifically, there's these things called involuntary holds. We are familiar with the phrase or the number of 5150. We're familiar with that. But then along with 5150, you have 5585, and then you have a 5250. These are involuntary hold codes or laws, or whatever the correct term for it is. These are what it is, right? So when somebody is acting very erratic and bizarre, the police is going to come in, assess them. Police is going to come in, assess them, and that person needs to be on a hold. A 5585 and a 5585 and a 5150, that individual can be involuntarily held in a behavioral or psychiatric hospital for 72 hours. A 5585 is for anybody that's under 18. A 5150 is for anybody that's over 18. Right? 5250 is a 14-day hold. So when you're in that hospital and that 72 hours comes up, if you were in there for like a 5150 or a 5585, and you reach that 72-hour point, what's going to happen is a psychiatrist is going to come assess you. And if you're stable enough to be discharged, you're going to be discharged. But if you're not, they're going to extend your hold. So that 5150 or that 5585 is going to turn into a 5250. That's a 14-day hold. But here's the important part when it comes to these holds and how this relates to gun control, right? There are 3 reasons why somebody would get put on a hold: danger to self, danger to others, and someone who's gravely disabled. Danger to self is exactly what it is. I'm a danger to myself. I'm thinking about suicide. I attempted suicide. I'm acting bizarre, and I'm putting myself where I can, be harmed. I'm fucking running naked in the street or something like that. I don't know, but I'm putting myself in harm's way. I can be involuntarily held for that. Then you have danger to others. That's clear, right? I'm a danger to my friend. I'm a danger to my girlfriend. I'm a danger to, whatever. Right? When we make threats, when you make a threat, oh, I'm going to kill you. Okay. Now, since you made that threat to me, I have the ability to put you on a hold. Right? Because you're a danger to others. Then you have gravely disabled. Gravely disabled is just for somebody who is so sick that they don't have the ability to take care of themselves. That's all gravely disabled is. But when it comes to people who are in there for a danger to self, when it comes to people who are in there with danger to others, and how this relates to gun violence, see, somebody who in there on a 5150 and somebody who is in there on a 5585, they cannot legally, in the state of California, I believe, I don't know if it's just only in the state of California, but in the whole country, but they cannot legally possess a gun, buy a gun. Yeah, they cannot legally possess a gun or buy a gun. They are prohibited by law to possess a gun or buy a gun for 5 years. If you're in there for a 5585 or a 5150, you can't. You have to stay away from guns. If you are a registered gun owner, and you are placed on an involuntary hold because you're a danger for self, the police can come by and take your guns because you're not supposed to have them anymore. Why? Because you're a danger to yourself. So I'm going to take the guns away from you so you won't harm yourself. Period. Same with the people who are dangerous to others. You shouldn't. I don't want you harming anybody else, so I'm going to take these guns. But once you reach that 72-hour hold and that thing is up, and you have to get assessed to see if that hold is going to extend to a 5250 or not. If that hold is extended, you cannot own a gun. You cannot buy a gun. You can't be in possession of a gun for the rest of your life. Period. There's already laws in place when it comes to gun control and mental illness, people and mental health. Stuff is already there, right? I fill those forms out every single day. Every single day. Stuff is already there. Let's get back into it. I know I kind of went on a tangent real quick.
So, if science can't solve the gun problem, what can it do? Lots, actually. Like, how about cleaning the air with bicycles?
So in breaking that down, it was, gosh, it is out of here, but it's clear, right? People who are mentally ill, if they're going to harm somebody, they're more than likely to harm themselves because they're trying to figure their situation out. Period. 3 to 5% of the violent crimes that go on in this country, that are people who are mentally ill. 3 to 5%. That's extremely low. Extremely low. So that other 95% is being done by people who aren't seriously mentally ill. Period. Like, we have to get into a place to where we're not really putting these people in the box. Like, a lot of these, and it said it in there, these people are 10 times more likely to be harmed by someone else, right? Whether it's be harmed by the police, because there's a lot of people who have, there's a lot of people who have been harmed by the police because they've had some form of psychotic break. You can be harmed by someone else, or you can harm yourself. Period. We should look at, when it comes to mental illness, not these mass shootings, but the suicide. Because we're just using this as a scapegoat. And like I said earlier, anybody who is severely psychotic, severely mentally ill, they do not have the ability to even take care of themselves. So how will they be able to actually carry this whole thing out? Like, a lot of it doesn't make any sense, and I just want people to understand that, hey, sometimes we need to take a step back and just think. But let's say, what if, by happenstance, right, that these mass shootings are really a mental illness issue. Let me go back, put this thing. What if this is really a mental illness issue, right? What if a lot of these mass shootings are done by people who are severely mentally ill? what's next? Because when it comes to these mass shootings, we're going to put them up on the TV for a few days, say that that person is mentally ill, and then back off and forget about it. Nothing is actually being done. Like, what are you going to do to fix the issue? Like, are you going to put any funding into it? Because the funding when it comes to mental health is trash. A lot of these hospitals are trash because they lack the funding. Are you going to introduce better treatment to a lot of these people? Because it's hard for certain therapists and things like that to really treat these individuals like that because they don't have the ability to go to these because of the funding that's not there. Better programs. More programs that are accessible. Programs that don't cost so much. Because the funding isn't there, a lot of these programs cost a lot. And because therapy and a lot of these outpatient facilities cost so much, people just aren't going. So if it is an issue, do something to fix it. Introduce better funding. Introduce more funding. Introduce better treatments. Stop associating violence with mental health. Period. Stop associating violence with mental health. Why? Because violence is not the product of mental health. Violence is the product of anger. Violence is not the product of mental health. Violence is the product of anger. Anger, we do things because we're mad. We do things because we feel a certain way. We do things because, we're entitled. a lot of us feel entitled, so we're going to do things as such. I seen an interview with Malcolm Gladwell. Malcolm Gladwell was a dope author, and he was like, he said mental illness has become a tradition within this country. And yeah, when these mass shootings first started to go on, it's more than likely that individual was probably severely mentally ill because at that time the treatment and help and everything didn't happen. But when things such as mass shootings starts to happen over and over and over and over and over again, what we do as a community, as a society, as a fucking country, one, we become numb to it. Two, those individuals who are doing it, they're like, I'm gonna do this, and so what's if it's not a mental illness issue, what is it then? Right? It can be a number of things, and one of the things that's always popped up in my head when it came to mental illness is, who are the people that are actually doing this? Is it women that are doing this? No. It's men. Is it black males who are doing this? No. It's primarily white men. Like, the way I was introduced to this whole, and this is crazy, the way I was introduced to this shooting, to this mass shooting, I was at work. We was getting ready, was planning out the day. It was me. I'm a black man. It was another social worker there. She's a Muslim. There was a nurse and another social worker there. Both of those individuals were from outside of the country, right? They were foreigners. I didn't know what was going on. I come in the middle of the conversation. I hear the Muslim person say, I'm just glad it wasn't a Muslim because we don't need to hear that. I hear the people who are from other countries, the foreigners, say, I'm just glad it's not nobody from another country, because we don't need to hear that. So I ask them, like, yo, what are they talking about? They tell me, oh, it was a shooting that went on, blah, blah, blah. So I asked them again. So we just cool with the fact that it's just another white man that did it? It's like, yeah. Why? Because we know that's the type of people that does this, yo. That does this. And a lot of times we have to call the shit what it is. You're not a mentally ill person that committed this. Like, nah, you're a white person who did this. The way they vilify and demonize black people when they do certain things, you're a thug, you're a criminal, you're crazy, or this and that. Yo, keep that same energy, dog. For real. Keep the same energy. It's important. And this is important. Just listen. This part right here is very important. Very, very important.
I keep trying to point out to people not to demonize any one group or any one ethnicity, but we keep thinking that the biggest terror threat is something else. Some people who are marching, towards the border like it's imminent. And when the last time they did this, a couple hundred people came and they, most of them did get into the country. Most of them got tuckered out before they even made it to the border. So we have to stop demonizing people and realize the biggest terror threat in this country is white men, most of them radicalized to the right. And we have to start doing something about them. There is no travel ban on them. There is no ban on, they had the Muslim ban. There is no white guy ban. So what do we do about that?
Yo. Don't demonize me and make me out to be this bad guy because of something that you're doing. Don't start the fire and then run away from the fire and say, oh, why is there a fire? Don't open up a can of worms and be mad at the type of worms don't come out. Don't put crack in my community and be mad at my survival tactics. Don't get mad at a certain community for doing something because of stuff that you're doing. Don't get mad at this mental illness community. Don't get mad and say, oh, don't demonize these mentally ill individuals and say, oh, these are the cause when it is your own brothers and sisters that are doing this. Don't sit there and use mental illness as a scapegoat to give privilege to these people. Don't use mental illness to give privilege to these people. That is their privilege, yo. Like, that is fucking sad to say that, hey, I'm okay with the fact that I can possibly do this. Because when this is done, people are just going to say, I'm mentally ill. That's my privilege. I can kill somebody and be like, mentally ill. So it's not really that bad. And I want to, this is very important. I want to read something that so the individual who did this killing, I believe it was on Tuesday. His name is David Long, clearly a white man out in Thousand Oaks. I don't care what you have. I don't care what's going on. If you're literally in the middle of killing people and get on Instagram and post, you know exactly what you're doing. This is from USA Today. It said during the actual shooting, dude posted at 11:24. It's too bad I won't see all of the illogical and pathetic reasons people will put in my mouth as to why I did it. Apparently, this is what he posted during the shooting. Right? He knows that people are going to go out here and say, oh, he's doing this because he's mentally ill. That's the excuse. And he knows that, hey, the dumb media is going to believe it. But as a white man, that's my privilege. I can get that. People can say that I'm mentally ill when it's happened. He even went so far as to say, fact is, I had no reason to do it. I just thought. Life is boring, so why not? I had no reason to do it. Life is boring, so why not? That statement isn't coming from anybody who is mentally ill. That statement isn't coming from anybody who has PTSD. That statement isn't coming from anybody who is suffering from some form of severe depression, bipolar, schizophrenia, a psychotic disorder. That isn't coming from anybody who doesn't know what they're doing. That isn't coming from anybody who is not mentally stable. That's coming from a person who knows exactly what they're doing, and what we need to do is actually call it what it is. So if you're one of those people who are agreeing with the media and saying everybody who is doing these mass shootings are mentally ill, but you're sitting out here trying to destigmatize mental illness, dog, you a hypocrite. You are a hypocrite, period. Because that's what the media is doing, is putting fuel on the fire, and you're allowing them to put fuel on the fire. You're assisting them with putting fuel on the fire. Like, we have to keep the same energy for a lot of the things, period. Because when it comes to this whole mental illness thing, like, and I believe I said this on the first episode, when it comes to this whole mental illness thing, this makes me, this further my reason as to why I believe this stuff is turning into a trend. Because it's like, let me hop on the fact that I can support individuals who are coming out of their depression and speaking about suicide. Like, yo, that is a very, very beautiful thing that people are doing, and I really do appreciate that. But keep that same energy when it comes to people who are schizophrenic. Keep that same energy when it comes to people who are psychotic. Keep that same energy when it comes to people who have borderline personality disorder, because that's a disorder that people call crazy. Like, they be wild and getting mad for nothing. Shit, it's hard for me to deal with people who have borderline personality disorder. Keep that same energy when it comes to people who have PTSD. Don't just say, oh, you have depression. I'm so glad that you got out of your suicide and you got out of your depression, and oh, you have anxiety. Keep it going. Share your story. Like, yo, that is great. That is super, super dope. But that's just one side of the coin. That's a small portion of what's going on within this mental health field. And we're celebrating those individuals who are coming out of their depression, but we're vilifying and demonizing those individuals who are stuck in a closet because of their psychosis, because of the voices that they hear. And we call them people crazy. We say that those people are going to do these mass killings. Those people are going to shoot up schools. Those people are going to shoot up bars. Those people are going to run in your household and kill you. That's what we're doing. We're separating. We're causing a divide down this whole mental health field when it's deeper than depression. It's deeper than anxiety. And to keep it frank, a lot of the time it's easy for us to support somebody who has depression because we can understand what they're going through. It's easy for us to support somebody who has anxiety because we can understand what they're going through. It's easy for us to do that. But it's hard for us to support somebody who has schizophrenia because we don't know what they're going through. We don't hear those voices. That's why I say it's a trend. Don't hop on the bandwagon of what's going on and then vilify someone else who is a part of that same group of people. Because a lot of these individuals who are depressed, a lot of them have sick and psychotic thoughts. A lot of these people who are anxious, a lot of them hear voices and they just don't want to tell you. It is somebody that's probably in your household who is hearing voices, who has paranoid schizophrenia, but don't want to tell you. And then they see shit like this on the media. They see shit like this on the news. That's why it's so important to unplug and clean out your phone when it comes to a lot of things, because we do not need to see this rhetoric on the TV. A lot of this stuff is very, very dangerous. Very dangerous. So if you're going to be an individual that's out here and supporting and working towards destigmatizing the mental illness, destigmatizing mental illness, do it on both ends. Don't just support those individuals who are depressed. Don't just support those individuals who have anxiety. Support those individuals who have PTSD, who have flashbacks, or who can't go to certain places because that's going to trigger them. And when they get triggered, they get violent. If you're going to support one end, support the other people who are schizophrenic and hear voices, and who hear voices that tell them to kill you. Because there are people who are schizophrenic who hear voices and them voices tell them to hurt that other person. Support that. It's hard to support that. Why? Because we don't understand that. We're going to support what we understand. We're going to support what's convenient. So are you really supporting this, or are you just doing what's convenient? For real. Because I get mad when I'm at work and I hear people, oh, it's a mental illness thing. It's just people who are mentally ill speaking about this. I get pissed when I hear, like, dog, you work in this field, you see these people every single day, and you're going to sit there and lump all these patients in that box. And you got this idiot of a president saying, oh, it's not a gun control issue. It's a mental illness thing, and we need to work at that. But we need to work at it, but nothing is being done towards it. Like, yo, figure out what side you're going to be on. Figure out what side you're going to be on and stick to that side, because we don't need none of that. We don't need none of that at all. So it's man, I felt like I got a lot out of my chest. But just to go into the comments real quick, Didier, you're drinking right now. Oh, he's speaking about when I spoke about the liquor. Yeah. You know, and it's a few takeaways, man. Don't use mental illness as a scapegoat. We unconsciously do it. Don't allow anybody else to use mental illness as a scapegoat for bullshit behavior. Your mental illness is not an excuse for your bullshit behavior, young man, young woman. Don't do that. Another part, if you're going to be on one side of the coin, supporting those individuals who are depressed and supporting those individuals who have anxiety, support the other side and support those individuals who have borderline personality disorder. Support those other individuals who have schizophrenia. Support those other individuals who have PTSD. Support that side. Because, and it's funny as hell, but when we speak about depression, when we speak about suicide, when we speak about this other stuff, people who are depressed come out and say something. People who are anxious come out and say something. But when we speak about these mass shootings, when was the last time you heard somebody who has schizophrenia come out and say something? When was the last time you seen somebody get on that podium and say that? You've never done it. I mean, you've never heard it, because I haven't. Period. Why? Because when we go ahead and we do that, we put them people in a box, and they feel safe in that box. They feel safe isolating. So if you're going to support one end, please support the other. Don't be out here faking half-ass and shit. Don't. Especially if you're a working professional and you're in this field. I call people out on this all the time. Don't do that bullshit. Don't. Because you know the majority of these patients, all they're doing is protecting themselves. They are trying to figure out what the hell is up with them, just like you are trying to figure out what is up with them. Period. And if they get violent, and if they come and attack you, it's probably something that you did, motherfucker. It's probably something that you did. It's probably something that you did. So when you do that, dog, figure it out. And I'm not saying all this shit to say like, yo, there are not people who have paranoid schizophrenia and decide to go, hurt someone, or there are not certain people who are delusional and, don't go attack someone because, their delusion is causing them to do it. Like, yes, there are individuals who are extremely delusional, and their delusions are telling them, and their hallucinations and their voices are telling them that you are somebody, or you remind me of somebody else, so I'm going to attack you. But that group of people is small as shit. I've been working in this field for years. And I've been working with some dangerous ass people. I've never gotten attacked. Nobody has ever said that, yo, I'm finna kill you. I've never felt like I've had to put my hands on somebody for the sake of my safety. I mean, yes, that individual may be irate, may be erratic, they may be wilding, but they wilding because somebody triggered them. They're wilding because they have a flashback. They're wilding because they're trying to protect themselves. So we ourselves, as people who are working in this field, helping professionals, sometimes we have to go hands-on to help them get to a stable and okay point. But they're not out here destroying shit. They're not out here destroying shit. We just need to call it what it is. Call it what it is and say, yo, you're just an entitled white person who believes you can do this. Frankly, you're an entitled white person who believes you can do this. That's all it is. Period. There may be some individuals who may be psychotic. It's fucking slim. So don't be quick to vilify and demonize these individuals, dog. Don't. So, closing out, I got a question for you, and you need to ask yourself, and this is something I've been bringing up a lot during the show today. Are you really supporting, or are you just following the trend? Are you really supporting this whole mental health movement and working towards destigmatizing it, or are you just following the trend because it sounds cool, because it's convenient, because it's an easy thing and it feels like it's the right thing to follow? I appreciate you if you're following that. I thoroughly do. Continue to it, but keep that same energy for those other people who can't. Keep those same energy for those other folks who are in the closet and who will never come out because of shit like this. Speak out for those individuals who are psychotic. Speak out for those individuals who are suffering from PTSD. Because us as black people, we suffer from PTSD all the damn time and nobody ever says anything about it. Period. I guarantee you, if that was a black person that did that thing at the bar, they're not going to say, oh, this person had PTSD. Period. Every black person, when a policeman gets behind them, they damn near having an anxiety attack. They start to think that, is this my last day on this earth? Am I going to die? That statement within itself is a symptom of PTSD. Us as black people, we suffer from PTSD. So if a police officer comes behind me and I have an anxiety attack and I have a panic attack and I do something to protect myself and I end up hurting that officer, are you going to say that, oh, I had PTSD? Or are you going to say I'm a crazy ass black man? Figure it out. As always, man, ain't no wealth without your mental health. Please stay great and take care of yourself. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Chill Will Radio. As always, Keith, good looking for tuning in. Diddy, you're good looking for tuning in. Everybody who is listening, good looking for tuning in. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Be great, y'all. Peace.